Net.tv. It is 9 o'clock on the Eastern Coast. It is time for our program, and we can't wait to get started. We've got to make sure bumper is running. We're recording, streaming to multiple destinations, and our first-time guest is awaiting us in the green room. So let's start the countdown to Studio, get this folks, 13. Well, good evening. Welcome to PJNet.tv. I am your host, Coach Prasick, and I am proud to present to you the very first commissioning of Studio 13 that we have just constructed. And I can't wait to welcome our guest, who will be our not only the first time on PJNet.tv, but for the first time in Studio 13, any guest has appeared. By the way, if you're watching this on social media, we are so glad that you stopped scrolling long enough to join us. But we also invite you to pjnet.tv. The live chat room is over there. There's people there waiting to welcome you. You will make lifelong friends. And you can watch the same thing, okay? Well, without further ado, I've got a friend of Star Airs. Now, Star has been here before, okay? But Deborah, you apparently were assured by Star Airs that this was easy to do and that there was nothing to worry about, because Star Airs is the video sensation that everybody knows, and she's got new things going on I'm excited about. But you've got new things going on. Tell us about, if I remember, your bio said that you taught chemistry, and I'm going to ask you to share with that. I can't imagine this being interesting, but I just feel professionally obligated to ask you about your... Anyway, I'm going to drink some coffee. Tell us about your upcoming and chemistry teaching, and tell me why I should care about chemistry.
Well, I'm not sure why you should care about chemistry, but I know that whenever I talk to anyone about that and say that I was a chemistry teacher, they either have one of two reactions. Either they loved it or they hated it. There's never the in-between. You never find somebody that says, oh yeah, chemistry, yeah, it was okay. I know that we talked earlier and you said, oh, I hated chemistry. Mm-hmm. So I'll put you in that. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you had such a poor teacher, because I think it has to do with the teacher. I think everyone would love chemistry if they had been in my class. So because I have a passion for it, and I think it came through when I was teaching. To me, there was every year I would come to a certain point when I was teaching, and I would realize that anew every year that the complexity of our world and the complexity and the uniqueness of everything, and realize that there has to be a God. There's no other way. I can't understand how any scientist could not believe in God. Just when they can look at all the things and the way that everything fits together.
How do you feel about the banning of the substance dihydrogen monoxide? A lot has been said about it, and we want to kind of ban the use of it because it's used in making plastics and other things that are hurting our environment. How do you feel about dihydrogen monoxide being...
Dihydrogen monoxide? Water.
H2O. They literally circulated petitions wanting to ban the use of it, and hundreds of thousands of people signed this petition to ban water. And but seriously, what one of the things, I actually made a video on this, that, as you pointed out so well, the creation declares the majesty of the Creator and the sovereignty of the Creator. And what blows my mind is you go to the periodic chart. See, I do know what things are. I went to college too,
Pay attention, yes, very good.
Okay, when you get to the corners of the periodic chart, you're getting to the explosive stuff, the volatile,
Yeah,
the inert stuff like lead, PB, that's right dead in the middle, So those
right.
are okay. So, all right, so you go to one corner and you find hydrogen,
Hmm.
one of the most explosive substances known to man.
Yes,
Now, to have any combustion, you've got to have oxygen. That's the fuel.
yes.
So you take hydrogen and oxygen and put them together,
And you have water.
and you light a match to it, and it'll put the match out. I don't get it. I just don't get it. But it does declare, it certainly makes me think, there is a God. There surely is a God. What are some of the things you said that I had the wrong teacher? If I would have had you a teacher, why? Did you blow stuff up, or did you do volcanoes, or did you have fun?
I did have fun, and I had a lot of fun with them. I started out as a chemist, as a research chemist, and so I was very familiar with the lab and very comfortable with the lab. So when I taught chemistry, I took them into the lab as much as I possibly could,
Mhm.
and I was able to let them be comfortable in the lab as well, because I knew how to handle things and how to work with them and teach them the right ways to handle different chemicals and things. And yes, we had a great time. So, and I think that's what makes it the most interesting is, I lectured a lot, but and also did all the other things, but I thought the labs were the most important to them, because hands-on is you learn a lot more that way. So I think that was probably, and a lot of chemistry teachers that come out of college, when they've taken the education route, they don't have a chance to get into the lab and get familiar with it and feel comfortable with it.
Mhm.
So they're trying to teach chemistry in the high schools. They don't feel as comfortable taking their students into the lab. And so I felt like I had an edge there, since I had come from research.
Well, I regret that I never took chemistry in college at that level, but boy did I struggle, balancing compounds and you know.
Equation.
But I do understand. We talk about pH a lot.
Yes.
Well, that's power of the hydrogen ion. And on that you say, what use is it? Well, yeah, it is useful.
Yeah.
You don't mix certain substances, and there's a reason. And you chemists have decoded the reasoning behind it. But have you retired from teaching now?
Oh, yes, I retired in 2004.
You don't look old enough to be retired. Come on.
Oh, yes. I have. I've been retired since 2004. I
So,
retired early.
okay. So what have you been doing?
Well, when I retired, I realized that I had to figure out what I was going to do, or I'd sit around and eat bonbons all the time. So I figured out three things that I wanted to do. One was I wanted to start going to Bible studies at my church, which I was unable to do while I was working. And the second thing was to join a book club. And the third thing was to write a mystery. So right after I retired, I did and started going to the Bible studies at church, and I enjoyed that a great deal. And then right the following year, a book club started at our library, and I became one of the founding members. And so it was just, we've been going ever since 2005. So it's been 15 years. This year it was that this book club has been we've been together for this book club. So that's been fun. And then in about 2009, I started to write. So I've been writing ever since too. So
When you say you started to write, I'll be honest with you, Deborah, I have a hard time connecting with writers. I'm not a writer. And I just can't imagine getting an impulse to sit down and write something. I write because I need to take notes. I write for utilitarian reasons. And I'm not a big reader. I've become more of a reader working with some of the authors and writers because they send me their books and I feel kind of embarrassed, oh, well, thank you for the book. I'll never read it. So,
Yes.
but I truly don't understand. You say you started writing. Why? What did you?
That was definitely God. I think it was a nudge from God. And it was just, and I think that even my retirement was when I retired from teaching chemistry. That was a God thing too. I think we have seasons in our lives when we just, yes, and we have, and he takes us through these different seasons, and he has different ministries for us. And when I was teaching, that was one ministry. And then I think when I retired, he was taking me into a different ministry. And so I think the writing was to be part of that ministry that I'm doing now. Even though I write romantic suspense, that is.
I was getting to that. Yeah.
I know that is. I mean, you think that, and I would like to talk about that a little later about some of the things that, because what happened in the book club, and this started with the book club, before that, all I read was mysteries, suspense, and thrillers. That was the extent of my reading before I got into the book club. But I realized that I really needed to expand my reading. And there's other books out there, and so I joined the book club, and lo and behold, I started reading autobiographies, biographies, nonfiction of all kinds, and also fiction of other genres, and I actually liked them. So I read, and then I started reading some books that really started to impact my life in different ways. And so that was something that I really wanted to speak about tonight a little bit. Because one of the books that I read in this book club was called Our Endangered Values by Jimmy Carter. In fact, what started me thinking about the books that impacted my life is I was driving my Prius, I shouldn't say that probably, I should say my hybrid car down the street, and I thought about why I even had that car, and that had to do with his book, Our Endangered Values. Most of the book was just fine. I was reading it for the book club, and so I was reading it, and it was okay, fine. But towards the end, there was a chapter that was called, it was called Major Threats to the Environment. And it talked about air pollution, and it talked about the pipeline in Alaska, and that was going through the wilderness, and it talked about United States having a goal of becoming less dependent on foreign oil, and the things that we could do about that rather than drilling in our wilderness places, and talking about alternate energy sources and the things that we could do as individuals. So, and that just moved me, and it just compelled me and touched my heart. And the chapter ended with a call to action for each citizen. And can I just read that to you?
Please, yeah.
It said, our proper stewardship of God's world is a personal and political moral commitment. And when I read that, it really touched my heart. And so I traded my van in, and I bought a hybrid car. And that was in 2007. So I continued to buy hybrids. I'm on my third one at this point. I gave one of them to my daughter, and she loves it. And I just felt like that was my part, something that I could do to help with the environment and with helping the air quality and all that. So.
Well, it's an interesting. I was having a discussion with a a PJNet family member,
Mhm.
and he's concerned about some of the globalist agendas. Okay,
Mhm.
and he points out that this humanism is a globalist idea, and God says to reproduce and consume and multiply and all that. And I reminded him. I said that is not a license to be anything less than a good steward in all that we do, including our consumption of product.
Yeah.
You're a chemist, and I don't want this to drift off into an argument. Okay, but I am learned enough to be fascinated by alternate fuel sources. Okay, the piston engine is an amazing invention. It is also a mature invention. And it's gotten a lot better, but I'm fascinated at some of the alternate fuel ideas to power our vehicles and such. And the battery technology has gone leaps and bounds forward with the lithium ion.
Yes.
Okay, and that's what is powering many of the battery-powered cars now. But as a chemist, do you have any insights? I'm fascinated by hydrogen because it's plentiful in the form of water.
Yes.
I'm also somewhat perplexed as to some of the ironies early on. I have literally seen with my own eyes a recharging station for your battery-powered car.
Uh-huh.
It was connected to a diesel generator to generate.
Wow. Okay.
So do you have any insight that as a chemist, with any knowledge you have there, why are we not seeing the development of the hydrogen, platform? Hydrogen is a very volatile fuel source, and it's plentiful in the form of water. It just takes too much electricity to break it down.
Well, I'm not sure why. I really haven't been keeping up with that, but I would guess that it has more to do with the money, and that how much it costs to actually develop the technology needed to do this.
One of the things, and this becomes a politicized topic, okay? For example, suppose for a moment that we came up with an idea that would propel some sort of engine that used water as fuel and could, it would cost us literally millions, if not billions, to produce the first one.
Yeah.
And while we're busy doing that, some guys on the other end of the world would have a meeting and they'd drop the price of gasoline down to 25 cents.
Exactly.
And that would make our car not sellable. Then we would vanish, and guess what would happen to the price of gas? Those same people that had that meeting would have a second meeting, and it would rocket back up. So it's become it's not a chemical problem anymore. It's not a science problem. It's not a technology problem. What it gets down to is a political problem. I was having a discussion with somebody on one-term presidencies. And I compared Jimmy Carter to Donald Trump. And I said, here you have very much different. I said, Jimmy Carter, whatever your political persuasion, he was a good man. I love, Jimmy Carter had the stuff in him to proclaim, I'm a Christian. He had the stuff within him to write a book like you read saying we need to be good stewards. Just because we're prosperous does not warrant waste.
Yes.
We have to. And anyway. Books, have you covered the part how reading and books have influenced you?
No, there's actually, there was another one that I wanted to talk about. Well, there was two, but I think I'll just go right to the one that I wanted to talk about was, it fits in here actually. It was my own book.
You thought very highly of it, didn't you?
Shameless plug. No, it's actually not shameless plug because the book isn't in print any longer. It's called Exploring the Faith of America's Presidents. And I wrote it with Kendra Armstrong. It was actually the very first book that I did, and it was a nonfiction. And I'm not plugging it because it really isn't in print any longer. But in compiling the book, it was, and this goes along sort of with what you were talking about. in doing the research, because the book is compiled is actually a compilation of quotes from each of our presidents,
Mm-hmm.
from Washington through, at that time it was Obama, and then we had, with each of the quotes, we had a Bible verse, a relevant Bible verse.
Okay.
And at the end of each president, we had a takeaway questions that were open-ended questions that the person could, that reading could then take here into the present day. So, but in compiling the book and doing the research and looking up the quotes and the Bible verses, it drove home something to me that just really helped me a great deal, and that is that God really is in charge. That no matter what the religious affiliation, no matter what the political affiliation of our presidents, who's in charge of our country, that God is actually in charge. And it was there was a peace that came over me at that time, and I've been able to hold on to since then. That no matter what happens in our country, I guess I've been able to hold on to a bigger picture. No matter what happens in our country, that the Lord, He's got this. Our circumstances may change, but the Lord is in control, and He used each of our presidents where they were to do His will, to advance His idea for what our nation was, where we should go and what we should do. And I saw this in the quotes that we had, and in just how these presidents, what they did, and how they did things. And it was really interesting to me. So that was another book that really affected me greatly.
We've only got about a minute left. Let's talk about a book you're very familiar with, Death of an Imposter. But meaning, when's that coming out?
That comes out today.
Well, let me give a plug for Star Air, since I know that the two of you are close.
Yeah.
She has just come out with a book too, For the Love of Emma.
Yes.
And I'm just deeply, well, I'm proud of both of you. I don't know if that means anything, because I'm not an author or a writer or even a reader, but I know the effort. I've come to know the effort and of doing this. But Death of an Imposter is, well, it's fiction. So tell us, we've only got about a minute, but tell us what you can.
It's the second book in a series that's called Trouble in Pleasant Valley, which my husband says that, maybe I've misnamed that town, but it's just a book about, my heroine relies on her faith to get her through. She is a rookie detective, and she has to solve a series of murders in Pleasant Valley, and she has there's a new doctor in town who she is helping her, but he's also has a secret, and she has to try, and she's not sure she can trust him. And so it's got a romance in there, but it also has a lot of suspense and action. So.
Well, by golly. All right. Well, Debbie, it's been great chatting with you, and thank you for sharing, your story and how a chemistry teacher could make it interesting. I'll have to follow up on that. I'll have to Google that and see if there's any other teachers like you out there. If there are, we need more like that. But you've retired, so I hope somebody took your place.
Oh, there are, and there's many of them out there.
Yeah. Apparently, I have this tablet that has that smart thing Siri or whatever her name is.
Yes.
I must have said something that queued her up, because she's listening to me now, wanting to know what I want to know. Anyway, Deborah, thank you so much for sharing with us, and it's just wonderful to know that there are people like you doing what you're doing, and we just wish you the very best as you move forward, and we hope God's blessings are with you, and we appreciate you sharing tonight.
And thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Glad to. Okay, folks, there we are high atop the eagle's nest. And by the way, you have not seen anything yet. You are about to be blown away. Let me tell you what's going to happen in the next segment, something that has never been attempted here at PJNet. You are going to get a live tour of the eagle's nest, every nook and cranny. That's right. And I'm doing this with a Thanksgiving theme, because so much of what we are able to do is because of the generosity and the willingness of people to help as we move forward. So please don't touch that dial at the bottom of the hour. We'll be back, and it'll be a lot of fun. Del Didway is taking the week off. He would normally be our guest at that time, but he didn't even write a blog today. He's on a well-deserved vacation. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. Before I leave, I would like to have you ponder two very serious questions. The first one is, what is the boldest thing that you've ever done for Jesus Christ? And then secondly, when was that? And I certainly hope that none of us will be satisfied with our answers to either of those two questions.